effectively what we've done with our hired and non-owned form is we've broadened it, or we've made an endorsement to it to specifically target the freight brokering, freight forwarding world because it is more black and white. It is easier to understand. There's a lot more clarity to that policy form than many of these other forms that are currently available to that industry.
You know what? I like where you're going with this because this is headed towards solutions. And, I've authored three forms over the last, I don't know, almost 10 years for this particular coverage. So out of those three products that I authored, they are relatively shorter. I mean, none of them are, these long-winded, policies. And the shorter they are, the more you're encouraged to read them. The last one, you'll like hearing this. The last one I was, just authored is 3 pages. Now, we were cracking up at the end of it because it was only 3 pages. The customer read it, freaking read it thoroughly, and we love that. We're cracking up. We're saying, why did somebody finally read it? Well, because it's only 3 pages now. So we're onto something. And with that, we do have momentum in bringing domestic U.S. insurers into the space. Now, there's a couple reasons for that. The first, is the risk is actually improving from a legal perspective with preemption, the ability to defend the claim on preemption grounds. And that doesn't get you out of everything, but it's a great start. So because the risk is moving in a better risk position direction, we have domestic U.S. insurers. Now, they're writing it on a non-admitted basis. That's fine. I don't care about that.
Yeah.
And you have to because nobody has filed rates from experience for, decades to share with, filings. And so you write it on a non-admitted basis, but it's not Lloyd's. It's not overseas. It's not, foreign insurers. It's good old-fashioned U.S. insurance companies that are now getting into this space. And it's more from the marine insurance position. And that's fine. Isn't that what marine insurance has been for over 100 years? Doing the things that, nobody else can do or will do because, that's what marine insurers think and do. And so the good news I find is, I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic by nature. And I think we are seeing evolution in the risk. We're seeing evolution in the coverage response. And look, it's only 2025. When I first said that to you guys earlier this year, I believe that was earlier this year. I mean, we're in August now. I could tell you 4 domestic U.S. insurers who are ready to get more bullish with providing this coverage. And I think, I think it's a good thing. I think it's a really good thing. I think it's good evolution. Great question. I hope that, that's responsive.
Yeah, no, I mean, your take is spot on. And again, that's kind of been our thought process. And your comment on being simplistic and short for people to understand is also spot on. We can have an entire other conversation on cargo forms. And that's been our kind of take on the cargo form that we utilize today for the same day delivery industry and expanded to the freight brokerage industry as well. My father was a former inland marine underwriter for Chubb in his early part of his career and became somewhat of a policy technician. But at the end of the day, all of our carriers now utilize our customized delivery form, which is very short and simple and broad. And it has to be for that class of business because oftentimes many of our customers don't know what they're hauling half the time. So it has to be that way. So, the auto needs to be somewhat similar. It's got to be short, understandable, and something that someone would actually maybe take the couple minutes to read.
Yeah, and don't tease me with a little cargo talk now because that's where it all began for me. And I agree with everything you just said. You know,
That's a teaser for the next episode of this
yeah, I have a feeling.
triumphant conversation here.
I have
Well,
a good feeling.
I think
Yeah,
you also have repeated in this. This is new business, new thing that Sam has so aptly pointed out that nobody really understood and knew about. But we're getting more and more understanding because this is a growth business. This is happening today. I mean, I ordered something from Amazon and got it within 5 hours
Right.
at my doorstep. That more of that, and everybody now is more aware of those kind of things. So it's not going to go away. Uh, it's going to
Yeah.
happen this. And so now when you get more mainstream businesses doing it with more definition, now you've got the more standard insurance provider concept because now they got something they can put their teeth into. They can understand better and possibly do some underwriting.
Yeah, I think what we see, especially in the final mile space, is the thought from the insurer side that it's kind of the Wild West when it comes to control and understanding what the exposure is and what's going to safeguard the motor carrier or the last mile company in this case. What do the independent contractors and private passenger vehicles have for insurance? Are we tracking their motor vehicle records? It's not as kind of arm's length removed, I think, as they've always felt that freight brokering is, where you're giving it to a licensed and authority-based DOT trucker,
Right.
and they have $1 million of coverage, and we have a warm, fuzzy feeling because we can see that filing online, right? It's oh, and by the way, in the last mile space, we gave it to XYZ Delivery, who gave it to Joe Smith, the 1099, who turned around and gave it to Marcus Jones, his friend, the 1099, who gave it to a third guy to deliver finally, right? And we didn't know where that package was the whole time. That's the kind of like loosey-goosey stuff that I think you can wrap your head around it as an insurer, but it takes them a little bit of time to kind of understand that process and go through and okay, how do we slice and dice this better and understand the risk so we can price it appropriately, right? And I think that's the challenge.
You get back to again to if it's not a warranty, but that's the best practice that broker does. So what you just spelled out doesn't happen.
Mhm.
And so you get the businesses who understand those kind of exposure to try to quantify them by having steps in there so they don't get blindsided.
And I think that's one of the issues that we see with back to the contingent auto broker liability, whatever form we want to call it, right? They have all these warranties in there. Final mile guys will say, "Oh yeah, we can do that." And no,
Right.
no, you don't. Right? It sounds good to say you can do it, but when the rubber hits the road and we have a loss and everyone starts asking questions, that's a bad time to go, well, we do it that way except for this time. Well, because this time then there's no coverage, right? So it's just got to be a lot more buttoned up, a little more disclosure, I think a little more upfront education with everybody, like we all believe in. But someone once said the best place for a C student to look like an A guy is to become an insurance broker. Because no one else wants to read the forms. So if you think you read them or you can purport like you read them, then everyone's going to think you're great. Well, you got to actually read them, as it turns out.